So, to explain this video's existence, did you know that God hates me? Guess who's just spent $1,500 on a new computer? And guess whose $400 graphics card didn't work, so now they have to send it in for a warranty. So guess who's making a video in like, hang on, it's like 8:45 right now, so guess who has to make a new video in like, what, 13 hours? Housamo has a new character, Yurugu, who I will not be talking about first because he looks like the protagonist from Persona 3's Persona. Instead, we'll be talking about his boss, Shisa. Shisa is Yurugu's boss, the principal of Housamo Academy. He, doesn't like that his face kinda scares kids, and, he can also turn to stone. Listen man, this dude's unit isn't even out yet and his event is untranslated. I am going off so little here. In the words of Dr. Evil from Austin Powers,
throw me a frickin' bone here.
To begin with his inspirations, Shisa is unsurprisingly a Shisa, a variation of the Chinese guardian lions. So Shisa are kind of like Koma Inu, you know, what Agyo is. The main thing differentiating the two is that a Shisa is from the Ryukan traditions, a minority group that's predominantly found on the island of Okinawa. Through this, we can conclude that Shisa would be from the world of Nirakanai alongside Taita and Kijimuna, since that is a world based on Ryukan myths. There's multitudes of stories about Shisa, such as different depictions, deciding their genders, one involving a dragon, another involving fire. It's a whole thing. I'll save all that for later when Shisa actually comes out and I get a research file to go along with it. Moving on to this Persona 3 looking motherfucker, we have the actual new guy, Yurugu. He's a transient from the world of Agisimba, the world based on African mythology, making him the third transient from that place and the third transient in the game to be born with an inward pass. Getting into his research file and in-game lore, Yurugu was originally supposed to be a twin, but due to circumstances, he was born alone. This has left the Fox with a complex around feeling incomplete and a desire to destroy the world, that way he can make one where he can fit in. Something he never succeeded at, leaving him with a very, wimpy personality to say the least. His sacred artifact is that egg around his neck, however it isn't actually an egg, it's actually a placenta. And if I had a dime for every Housamo character with a very uterine sacred artifact, I'd have 2 dimes, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice. It has the ability to create copies of Yurugu that are ultimately flawed, so think of it as a dollar store version of Ophion's artifact, which is really like the cheapo version of Narlantotep's artifact. Future viewer here because I forgot to mention this last tidbit, he works at Housamo Academy underneath Shisa as a part-time teacher. It was a bit hard finding the real-life inspirations for Yurugu, but after digging a bit, I gotta say Housamo did a pretty good job of adapting what I could find. To begin a fairly long and complicated explanation, Yurugu comes from the Dogon people, an African tribe that lives in the Bandiagara cliffs. And I do mean in them, it's a whole thing and it's sick as fuck. I totally recommend you look into them. To explain something super complicated very quickly, the myths have a huge focus on twins, with the creator god originally supposed to be giving birth to twins. However, that male twin ended up leaving early. The most notable of these myths I can't really describe because it's as Yannick as a sacred artifact insinuates. Just know that it was incestuous in nature and got the dude cursed to be a fox and given the name Yurugu, and thus he became an evil god of chaos and disorder. Honestly, a very loaded backstory that I did not expect to get into when I first looked this guy up. Either way, with him and Shisa, it seems like Housamo is trying to fill out the roster for those lesser filled worlds, which is something I always appreciate. I just spent like way too long talking about only 2 characters, but you know what? I'm just going to ignore that as I tell you to like and subscribe. Getting really close to 10k subs. I'm also reminding you I have a Ko-fi and Patreon because I spend $50 sending that fuck-ass GPU back for warranty repairs. I will never not be shitty about that. Now, which character will I cover next? I kinda wanna do Otohime specifically so I can make a girl you don't have enough ass to be doing that pose joke, but like, I feel like I've already done Otohime at some point. I guess we'll do Ellie because she's one of the first characters I see in front of my face and also because she's allergic to having bad art. Ellie isn't actually a transient, rather, she's from Tokyo. And notably, she's also the head of the Kabukicho Outlaws. Although the decision making usually falls to other people because she isn't active during the day. Not that she'll burn in the sunlight or anything, she just likes to sleep during it. She's actually incredibly powerful, but remember, this is Tokyo after school summoners. This means when her power is at its peak, she can't actually claim any territory for her guild. Her artifact is one of those weird ones, where it's her vampiric blood, which you can see in her 5-star art, which takes the form of those, are we gonna call those wings? We're gonna call them wings. Our inspirations are fairly loose, being based on 2 primary figures, the first of which being Elizabeth Bathory. You should know her, the Hungarian noblewoman who supposedly bathed in virgin woman's blood to maintain her youth and beauty and whatnot, although most historians today think those stories are really just embellishments and folktale. She was arrested for murder, but historians are still disputed on whether or not she actually did do that. Her second piece of inspiration comes from the gothic novel Carmilla, one of the original pieces of vampire literature. It's all about a young woman named Laura being hunted by the titular vampire Carmilla. I'm not sure how her dress from her 4-star alt fits into that, but maybe if I gave the book a read, or hell, gave Ellie's event a read, I might be able to figure that out, but not right now. It's too late and I don't want to. Despite her having some of the best art in the game, it's safe to say that she is not, in fact, carried by her art. Since we are talking about vampires, I might as well mention Kresnik. Kresnik is another member of the Kabukicho Outlaws, meaning he technically works under Ellie, but at the same time he is affiliated with Kabukicho Academy, being one of Ellie's teachers, which is a bit of an odd relationship if you ask me. He's from the world of Gatesh, the one ruled by the world representative Perun, and his sacred artifact is, well, everything you see behind him in his 4-star art. Like genuinely. It's every arrow, every sword, every gun, every bullet, it's everything in his art. It's all made out of magic silver that's good for killing night creatures and stuff. In his homeworld, Kresnik hunted creatures of the night for a living, although that doesn't mean he stopped after coming to Tokyo and becoming a teacher as we see in the main quest. Although, just to be clear, the irony of a vampire being a vampire hunter is not lost on him. Finding this guy's inspirations was a little complicated because it turns out there's a Slavic god named Kresnik who is entirely unrelated to this Kresnik we have in Housamo. His inspiration lies in the character of the same name, that being the Kresnik, a kind of vampire hunter and shaman who transforms into a pure white animal to hunt his archenemy. That arch-nemesis, being Kudlok, featured prominently in Shin Megami Tensei, although in Housamo it seems like his rival has been switched to Vulk Vesslav, which I guess kind of does work since Kresnik is a vampire and Vulk is kind of werewolf-coded. Although Kresnik himself is also wolf-coded, especially with the ponytail, and look at his furry hand in his 4-star art. Honestly, if I'm being objective here, Kresnik is just fine, but I do think he holds a special place in my heart for being the first 4-star I ever got in Housamo. And since I did mention him, I might as well make him the final transient we talk about today, that being Vulk Vesslav. Vulk is a transient from the world of Gatesh, and he works underneath the world representative of the world, Perun. He fancies himself the Werewolf Tsar, known for leading armies of children onto the battlefield, most of which promptly met very early ends. Not that he has any problem with that, rather he celebrates them all as heroes who gave their lives to a cause. His sacred artifact is a lot like Yurugu's. It's his minion that he was born with that he uses as a shield. It has the ability to shunt away curses and the cold, which makes it actually very useful and quite strong as a sacred artifact goes. I already mentioned his rivalry with Kresnik, but there's also his rivalry with Kimun Kamui, because the latter thinks sacrificing children for the greater good is bad, and Kimun... shit. Mostly because Horikyu Kamui thinks sacrificing children is a bad thing, and Kresnik... mostly because Kimun Kamui thinks... God, talking about these three is so confusing because all of their names begin with K. What I'm trying to say is, Horikyu Kamui doesn't like child murder, Vulk Vesslav thinks child murder machine goes burr. Vulk's inspiration lies in the figure Vseslav of Polotsk. It was a lot like Elizabeth Bathory in the sense that he was a real person who verifiably did exist but has a lot of folklore and myths surrounding him. Like the Russian Primary Chronicle details him as a sorcerer, and the Tale of Igor's Campaign also depicts him as a werewolf, and that's among his fictional and numerous very real military campaigns. If this video, which is definitely going to be late, wasn't supposed to be live in like 20 minutes, I'd totally spend more time on it because it is a whole thing. If I ever get to making another Housamo Heroes video, and I'm telling you that's not likely, Vulk Vesslav is probably leading the pack. Pun definitely intended. Anyways, I got to getting this video done, so blah blah blah, like and subscribe, blah blah blah, Ko-fi Patreon, blah blah blah, Patreon shoutout time. Special shoutout to Zoro, Chow, Tron, and Macoides. The Endless Night and Endless Sun. The Endless Nights and the Endless Suns. Thank you all for watching. Do be sure to like and subscribe. As always, this is your host Furry, signing out.